Okay, we start.
Okay, I start. So, good morning everybody. My name is Franck Dubois. I'm a PhD in history, and today I will try to explain you mutation of French rural areas from 3 centuries, but also I will try to introduce some kind of representation from people from French, from rural areas and also urban areas, and the mismatch and the préjugés, the clichés we can have about countries. It starts from the French Revolution, when during the wars the French decided to build kind of natural French identity. We call it the hexagon, the France. They decide, because the French can win wars, but they can also lose wars. So they say, okay, we can make into mind natural borders with the seas, the ocean, the North Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, and the Mediterranean Ocean, and also with the Alps and the Jura and the Vosges mountains. And it works because till now, for 3 centuries, everybody says, oh, what is France? It's the hexagon. So it works really well. And as you can see now, you can see the real. And ideas and pictures in mind takes a long time. Even after the French Revolution, for French people, Napoleon Bonaparte was he was too civilian, he was too popular, too middle class, and so he decided also to help French not to have a too huge resiliency, to look like a bit like the Louis XIV, the Light King. And French became a kind of a curiosity object. That was also so strange French, but maybe if you know the French symbols, the flag, the Marianne, the hat, and so on, it came really late in history of France, like 1888, that they introduced the 4th of July and so on. French people, they really use a kind of image as an expression of the belief, is a sign. And what is important is not the content of the image and cliché, it's how you spread it, how you talk about it. It's kind of a rumor and a kind of an urban legend. And everybody, they can make a cartoon, a sketch, and make a resume, an abstract of people, and they can make it to a box into groups, and it's easy to criticize or to be proud of something you can really summarize. It's kind of a judgment, you know, when you make a cliché, a préjugé, it's really to say, oh, you are good, but less than us. You know, you can compare, you balance people with this. So it's a kind of a characterization of people and groups. And I can show you several examples, for example, of cliché from European countries and a different point of view. Like what could be a European for foreigners outside the European community. And you can find several books talking about stereotypes. What's being British? You know, they use it several times. And what is the rest of Europe for those groups. Ah. So I hope you can integrate this kind of stereotype and cliché from everybody. With a cliché, it's in some way you are jealous of the other groups. So you love it, but you also hate it a bit. So you want to scratch the other groups to say, okay, I'm not so bad, I'm not so depressed. It could help you to be better in your mind.
Who has created this map? Do you know? Who is the creator of this?
I'll show you it was before.
Well, it's under the title, so you can find the website.
I'm trying to find out. And if the other ones can make cliché of us, we can also make our own cliché. And in France, it started in 1980 that people they realize with real holidays that we have heritage and gastronomy and a lot of good products. And French people, they start to go to holiday by car and they discover France and they realize, oh, we have good resources, good food and good drinks and good cheese and so on. So they start to be proud and to integrate this into their mind. And but I will try to help you to go deeper into the cliché and to analyze and try to catch some stereotypes. And this is the traditional cliché for French, cigarettes, hats, bread. But we also made it with cartoons, and this is one of the famous ones, the Mutation, with a typical rural French Parisian family. We have also the super French superhero that he wants to protect the French products from copycats. But I will show you, it starts, we can see it from the Middle Ages. I will start in the 19th century. In all urban area, cities was a big problem because there were huge of microbes and illness, and it was a matter of public health because the streets, it was like garbage, you know, everybody piss on the street, throw the garbage in the middle of the street, and everybody goes ill, and this was how people live in a house in France. So more you were rich, you live downstairs, and more you were poor, the rooms were smaller, and you go upstairs. And today is the opposite. When you are rich, you live on the roof, and you can make a kind of a terrace. So it was the same with the rural area. For Parisian and urban people who live in a crowded city, they ask for artists like Dubois, Millet, Picasso, Pissarro, to help them to dream a bit and to go to natural areas. And it's a cliché because the life in rural area was really kind of misery, really hard work. They wear only one clothes for all the week, and they just change for the Sunday to go to church. And but here it's like here in Chiprovtsi, it's really pleasant. You have a lot of women working, but it's in a cool way. And you can see the life in the 19th century. And you've got also wood people working. And the guys, they just receive the payment, the salary, and they're just waiting, relaxing. But it was really the opposite of the reality. At the time, people were really poor, and they tried to move million people to cities and to mines to work with better conditions. And also the reality, when you find archives, it's for example in 1873, it was the most frozen year of the century and maybe of the millennium. Hundreds of thousand people died this year because of the winter so hard. And the George Haussmann, he was an architect, and he decided to introduce nature and rural area into cities. So he was really criticized for this at the time. He destroys all the fortress system to open the city to nature, to plant trees and so on into Paris. And today, if we love Paris and the big boulevard, it's because of Haussmann, the Parc Monceau. It's nature in the city, because they really keep this false representation of nature and rural area, so they introduce it into city. And even right now, they just do it like in the 19th century with Paris. They just rebuild this shame. Today, you know, maybe Montmartre, or it's Rue Mouffetard in Paris. And so all people in the city, they want to go to the rural area for fresh air and to be in contact with nature. And at the end of the century, there were a book saying, oh, you have to travel all over France and discover France. And it was kind of a first editorial success with 2 kids traveling out of all the border of France. And a guy who want to make more promotion of automobile, of car, decided to launch, because of the book, a Tour de France, so a cycling tour to discover the France. And 5 years after, it's a real Tour de France. You just follow all the border. Today it's maybe not real one, because you go from England or from Netherlands or from Africa for the Tour de France. Fernand Léger, he tries to make abstraction of this natural area, but people doesn't catch it, they doesn't agree with this. So he starts to make modernity with cities and to make it together. It works better for, you can see it with Mondrian and so on. Here you have some cliché in 100 years after. It's kind of the same place. They just remove cemetery for illness and so on, because they put it in. It's always in the middle of the town, and people get they have a lot of people died because of the insalubrity of the place. But as you can see, they just put a road, and it's quite the same place in a lot of towns. In most recent years, people came back to rural area because it was cheaper, and there were a mix between citizens living in a rural town. You got retired people, young people, they want leisure, they want to go to swimming pool, and so they push towns from rural area to change and to adapt it to like an urban city. And as we can see, whole process in Europe, European Union tries to make kind of a transition of the whole community, and it starts with the adhesion to European Union in 2004, and at the same time people start thinking of peak oil and how we can be less dependent to oil and to gas, because they were afraid of being, having no more life standard like in the past. And a movement, an alternative movement, they start to think about it for how we can change, how we can reduce consumptions, and people they were inspired from the Australian permaculture movement and the altermondialist movement in France, and they try to make step-by-step simple solutions, realistic example, and it was really easy to do it in a rural area, a small place, small community, abandoned communities, so it was easy to do it and to reproduce it. And Robert Keynes, for example, he tried an example in Totnes in UK, and it was the beginning of the spread of permaculture in Europe, and how we can really change the paradigm, how we can really change to be autonomous in our place, and how we can prepare climate change. And so he wrote a transition manual. You can download it for free in English. And there was a good point, because people they were getting used to, if they dislike their living place, they were getting used to move, to leave the place. You know, it's like you put your garbage, oh, I don't care, I don't like the place anymore, I move with my family, and whatever happened to the city or town, it's not my problem anymore. But with the crisis, people couldn't move. There are no more money to leave the place, to trying to sell the housing. And so they try to say, okay, now I'm obliged to live there, and what I have to do right now. And it's always this kind of stereotype with the crisis starting in 2008. Like, for example, France, there were a cliché that it's a kind of a southern country, and Americans, for example, they say, okay, there is the northern European countries, they are really civilized and they have money, savings, they can prepare the future, and the Latin countries, they are just want to play and are having fun, and they don't care, and they spend money, and they will collapse the European Union. Maybe you heard these stereotypes. And in Burgundy, we can see this kind of transition model in Morvan. It's a huge forest, and now they start to be an official natural park, regional park, and a small city like Summer is also in transition, and so they want to preserve kind of natural heritage, and it's spread all over France. Even Paris, Grenoble, Bordeaux, they start to say, okay, we now also want to be in transition. They made a lot of alternative books to say all the organic producer, when is the market, where you can find good products without entrance in it, and they help people for local development to think about the future. It works well. And a lot of people ask me about what are the cities or the countries, European countries, really in transition. And I draw really like mathematics data and so on. And one day I just look at a night satellite picture, and I realized, hey, all the lights in night, they are official and cities in transition. All the cities who are consuming a lot of energy by night, they are the most cities in transition. Really. So you can take the official transition network site, and so I made like a draw, and the most official initiative they are in UK, and you can find it from Dortmund to Napoli. There is also to Turkey with Istanbul, and from Lisbon to Lublin in Poland. And there is also official European municipalities. They sign a contract, a charter to have less energy consuming. So they ask for 20% less consuming energy for having savings, and to change 20% of energy with renewable energy. And it starts working really well in France, and in some of countries, Germany it's worked well. And before the end, what is good with this process is that everyone working together. Normally there is just a local initiative, autonomous community, and you have all the municipality asking for grants and giving money for a project, but it's always autonomous. And with this transition principle, even outside the official movement, people are really working together, which is good. And there is kind of a reconnection, replugging of natural areas that were divided because of highways, because of a lot of plants. When we are looking into urbanism and landscape management, human people, they really divide natural spaces. And now they try to rebuild, to reconnect, even in a real, not only in mind, but also in real time, that people, they can say, okay, we can reintroduce nature, we can relive together again. And you can find a lot of local initiatives to say we eat together and we eat local products. We can, let's try organic products. Maybe you are afraid because they are not so beautiful as in the supermarket. But, and people, they're getting used to it more and more and more. It changed all the distribution system in France, for example. And people, they're getting involved, even kids. They do kind of a shared garden, and the kids, they are like growing small plants, basilic, 2 or 3 tomatoes, and they're getting proud of the small garden. And sometimes you have young people, or they don't care and they throw garbage on it, and they say, oh, it's our plants, and everybody taking care of the local area more and more and more and more. And it's spread outside the neighborhoods and towns. And we can see also introduction of academics and, for example, architecture school. They introduce design as in original permaculture idea from Australians, and it's helped. They transpose the ideas in all market, all trading, all everything, and it's making something more and more. And they make workshops to help local people to think about their own future. So they agree, they participate for their own development, and so they decide also with stakeholders. You know, they keep being proud of their own village in rural area. So there is no opposition between the big cities, who are getting greener and more smart cities and so on, with more lights and more water, but also the rural areas. They keep living and they keep having hope in their own development. And from the 19th century till right now, the population really balanced, and there was 97% of peasants in the 19th century, and today there is less than 3% of peasants, but they keep having life in a rural area. But the problem is also with stereotype that today there is, for example, the image of how to be a superhero. You must live in a big city. You don't see a Superman living in a rural area. So maybe we will need to make new image to help also to preserve the natural spaces. It's an idea I launched, and you do what you want. So we need to break the myth. You know, it's kind of the French stereotype with the baguette, but it's different. You know, you make it more. You introduce design in it, and it's becoming more. You give adhesion to the process. We try to change all image and stereotypes in France, and this was a huge debate in France, because a black Marianne, it was out for some French people, but it works well. But we have to spread the idea of stereotypes everywhere. This is promotion material to say, okay, even a woman can rent a car. Even if it's destroyed, whatever, we've got insurance. You know? But it goes everywhere, because we start thinking like in Sweden and Denmark and Norway, and we realize that we make those images, those clichés in brains since the childhood. And a boy has to play with blue toys, and he has to be violent, he has to be a hero, and a woman has to work at home and to clean the clothes and so on. So they change it. And we can find, this is a sold out toy with a black puppet for boys and not for women. And it's a huge success in France. It's changed. We were in France. We are really proud of ourselves, but we can also really hard and really criticize with ourselves, and it helps to stop this what we call French bashing. You know, this is an example of a commercial. So we can play with it. You know? The good is to play with those cliches.
Yes, so,
And you see, it's a real marketing advertisement. And this is still part of the training and the tourism process. Like even today, if here it's a goat market, but it's also a mushroom, black mushroom market, really popular, and all the world they're coming here to see and try to buy some those black mushrooms. And but people, when they arrive, they say, "Oh, it's like France 2 centuries ago." No. So we sometimes, for commercial reason, we keep entertaining those clichés. And so, what is better for us, to entertain the cliché or to change minds for a better change? That's my point for today. Thank you. I was not too long. Perfect.